Hey everyone, this is Jerry with San Pedro Mastery. Today I will do an update on how the cacti are growing indoors under the Spider Farmer SF4000 LED grow light. Compared to the previous video on this grow, you will notice quite a few changes, as it's been over 2.5 months since I uploaded it. Now this tray of Bridgesii is the only large tray with older seedlings that's left. It has spent the past 2 months right in the center, just underneath the grow light, but the plants were turning a bit yellowish, which normally is an indicator of too much light. So I have moved them to the side just a few days ago where they should recover a greener color. That's not surprising of Bridgesiis, as they have a lower tolerance to light than for instance Pachanois. And by the way, if you want to see what this strain of Bridgesii looks like when they are older, here's a few of them. This is not a weak strain of Bridgesii that often gets sick. These are super resistant to rot, and they grow fast. I'm absolutely pleased with them. You may remember that in the last video, there were 2 more of those large trays containing older seedlings. Well, some of the seedlings in there were getting too large to be in a tray, like 4 inches tall. Those I repotted outside, each of them in its own pot. I typically use 8 by 8 centimeter pots. For those of you who think in inches, that's 3 by 3. As for the seedlings that were still too small to be repotted in individual pots, they have been repotted in smaller containers, some of which are here. Interestingly enough, I have realized that there are some monstrous seedlings amongst the Pachanoi I have been growing lately. These are characterized by a very chaotic rib formation. What's interesting is that these seedlings are not the offspring of my monstrous Pachanoi, the one I named SPM-TPM. No, these seedlings come from another one of my Pachanois, one that looks 100% normal. But I don't know which one it is, because unfortunately I did not write down which lot of seeds I used to grow these seedlings. So, one of my Pachanois is a non-displaying monstrose, and it gave birth to monstrose seedlings. Not all of those seedlings are monstrose, maybe half of them, and they display it from a very early age. That is super interesting, and I would like to find out which one of my Pachanoi plants is a non-displaying monstrose. Maybe some of you guys can help me with this. If you have grown some of my Pachanoi seeds, and some of the seedlings display these weird rib formations, please let me know what strain it was, if you remember. That would be extremely helpful. All the plants are growing beautifully, apart from a few of the small containers. Those are some of the small containers that were part of my first grow journal. They are looking yellowish or pinkish and have stopped growing. They have not grown in months. I don't quite understand why they got yellow. My guess is that they got too much light at some point and that stunted their development. That and the fact I did not water them enough. Like I mentioned in the past, when they turn yellow or red at a young age, it's hard to get them to get back to green and grow again. I think that will eventually happen, but that could take several months, so you'd better not be in a hurry. I'm sure most of you guys who are growing my seeds are getting much faster growth than I got on these containers. But it's because I have not dedicated much time to these seedlings. The priority always goes to my larger plants outside. There are always some needing care. Sometimes they need repotting, sometimes it's the wind that makes them fall over, etc. As far as this indoor grow is concerned, I certainly have not been watering them as often as I should. I tend to water them every 10 days or every 2 weeks, which is not enough since the soil dries in just a few days. Now let's take a look at the trays that are still covered in plastic film. If you are new to the channel, those contain younger seedlings. Their first few months of life are enclosed. Like this, you don't have to water them constantly, and also you don't risk damage from insects. Just as a reminder, in these 2 trays here and there, nearly all the plants died last August during a heat wave. I tried to save the plants that were still alive, I removed the dead ones, and sowed hundreds of new seeds to replace them. I'm going to open them in a minute so you can see how that worked out. Then over there at the end we have a container of Bridgesiis, which is now 3.5 months old, if I'm not mistaken. This one seems to be doing well, and we will be opening it too. This large container here is a new addition since the last video. I used some old Pachanoi seeds in there. I certainly would not want to sell seeds that are not fresh, so if I have some older seeds, I'll just keep them to grow myself. So let's start opening them. I will do that outside. I start by wiping off the dust on top of the film with some alcohol. In the last video, I cleaned it with just water, and someone in the comments said that I should use alcohol. He's right, this is better than water. This said, a lot of people interested in these cacti come from the mushroom world, and they think cacti need the same extreme level of hygiene as mushrooms. It's not at all the case. Cacti are 100 times more forgiving. However, in this particular case, it doesn't take more effort to use alcohol instead of water, so I suggest you do that. This was one of the trays from last August that I tried to save, and the results are not good. Just as a reminder, I originally sowed this tray around June. Then in August, nearly all the plants died after the tray was exposed to extremely hot temperatures. At that point, I removed all the dead plants and sowed more seeds. Well, that was a mistake. I should have just abandoned that container, because some green moss got in and now it's extended. Pretty much all of the new seedlings have died and disappeared. I'm not sure what happened to them, but I guess it's something to do with the green moss. Many of the seedlings that are in the green moss are dying, and they don't like to be in contact with something constantly soaking wet. I have wasted time with this container. I should have just started a new container from scratch rather than sow seeds in a container that originally had dead plants in it. You live and learn. I think that very soon I will permanently remove the film on this container and move it outside, where the temperature at the moment are starting to warm up. I think fresh air and wind will do the plants some good, if they survive. If they don't make it, then that won't be the end of the world. There's not that many plants in there anyway. Here's the other tray that I tried to salvage, and it looks even worse. The green moss here has already taken over the whole tray. But for some strange reason that I cannot explain, out of the new seedlings that I sowed back in August, there is a lot more of them that have survived. Maybe this one I won't move outside right away, because there are still quite a few plants in there. But I will open it nevertheless, because this green moss is not healthy and it really thrives in this humid environment. So now I am making 2 holes in it, and in a few days I will make a few more holes, and then a few more holes until I can finally take the cover off. Now here's a container of Pachanois I've sowed 7 weeks ago using all the seeds. I've had very poor germination out of these seeds, so about 4 weeks ago I planted more seeds. Those came up better, even though they were from the same batch. I'm not sure why the original seeds germinated so poorly. My guess is that they did not get quite enough light to get them to germinate. You see, the germination part is very tricky. If the light is not strong enough, then the seeds just won't germinate. But the seeds are not dead, they're just hibernating, until you remove the film and the soil dries again. 1 or 2 dry wet cycles should be enough to trigger germinating. However, this kind of sucks, because you will have baby tiny plants growing at the feet of seedlings that are already over an inch tall. And if you want the younger ones to survive, you will have to keep the soil constantly wet, which may not be to the taste of the older ones. It's not an ideal situation, but that happened to me with 1 tray last summer, and in the end, both the older seedlings and the younger ones survived, at least most of them. If there is any conclusion to draw from this tray and the really low germination I've had on the first batch of seeds, I would recommend having the light on a bit stronger during germination. Don't turn it to the max and fry them to death, but just turn it up a notch during the few days they are germinating. Once they have germinated, then you can turn down the light. You could also do it without adjusting the dimmer, by just moving the tray. Instead of having it on the side, move it just underneath the lamp during the germination, as the light there is a lot stronger than on the sides. As soon as they have germinated, then you can move the tray back to the side. Now I'm opening a tray of Bridgesii. Please note that the footage that you're seeing right now of me opening that tray is 3 weeks old, when the plants were about 3 months old. So they would have grown a bit more by now. I could have reopened this container now and film it again, but I prefer not to do it, as it's not a good idea to open them too often. These Bridgesii are looking great, the way they should. They've been grown entirely under the Spider Farmer SF4000, so this proves that you can successfully grow cacti from seeds under that grow light. You can basically grow them from seeds to adult with just 1 light. Now, if you remember well, when I started this grow using the Spider Farmer light, I knew that adult cacti could grow well under an LED lamp, but I was not sure about freshly born seedlings. Well, these Bridgesii prove that you can do it. Do they grow as beautifully as they would under a T5 fluorescent tube? Not quite. That has not been my experience so far. I think they have a better color under a T5 tube. They have a deeper shade of green. Maybe it's just down to the adjustments of the dimmer on the LED light, and I can eventually get the same results under LED, but for the time being, the T5 tube wins for the very young plants. It would be interesting to start two trays at the same time, one under a T5 tube and another one under an LED grow light, and see which grows fastest and how the plants compare in appearance. But don't get me wrong, this is a great lamp, and it's cheaper to run than T5 tubes, especially when they are adults. To grow adult plants with T5s, you would need quite a few of those tubes, and that would be costly to run. If that can even be done, but this I could not answer. I've only ever used T5s for the first 6 to 8 months, 1 or 2 tubes, and afterwards I take them outside. I've heard from people who have bought some of those grow lamps that can accommodate 4 T5 tubes. And they start with just 1 tube or 2, and then add more tubes when the plants get older. Some of these grow lights are even made for 8 tubes. That would be a lot of light. Possibly too much for cacti, I'm not sure. If you have any experience in growing adolescent or adult cacti under several T5 fluorescent tubes, please let us know in the comment section how it worked out for you. One thing for sure is that the electric consumption of several T5s would be considerably higher than of a LED light. Now I am going to show you just some of the smaller containers that I've started recently, 3 months ago if I'm not mistaken. Just like the Bridgesii we saw just before, this section of the video was filmed 3 weeks ago, so they have grown a bit more since. Here we've got a cross between Pachanoi Sardagnola A1, which is one of my fastest growing San Pedros, and Knutianus. The Knutianus that gave the pollen is a beautiful long spine variety, very unique plant which some people think could be a cross between Knutianus and Bridgesii. Next we have another cross involving Sardagnola A1, but this time it's the father, not the mother. The mother being my largest Terskeki plant and the only one that flowers. Since it's a fat Trichocereus, a very fat one in fact, and it's the mother, you can bet on sizable seedlings. Some of these seedlings are already looking quite fat. This is going to be an awesome hybrid. I'm hoping for quite a fat cactus, but not as enormous as the Terskeki, and with a much faster growth than a Terskeki. Fat Trichocereus plants normally grow very slow, so hopefully crossing it with a Pachanoi will speed things up, especially since that particular strain of Pachanoi grows fast. These are grown from my own monstrous Pachanoi, which I call TPM-SPM. It's open pollinated, so we can't know for sure which is the father. I did pollinate it with a beautiful spiny Pachanoi, which I refer to as Costa, but I did not enclose the flowers in pollination bags, and for that reason I consider it to be open pollinated. However, it's likely that it's a cross with Costa. One way or the other, this is going to be a super interesting one to follow, because its mother is a monstrous. It's too early for those to turn monstrous yet, but hopefully there will be nice surprises in the future. If you are interested in buying some of these seeds that I produce myself, please send me an email and I will reply with information, prices and photos. I also sell seedlings grown from the same seeds. You will find my email in the description of this video. I will also make it appear now on the screen. It's sanpedromastery@protonmail.com. Now, here's one of the containers of Pachanoi and Peruvianus seeds from Peru that I'm currently growing. And they are looking good. I'm not going to show you any more of those containers because at the moment, most of the plants are looking alike. It's only when they get a bit older that we'll be able to see what they look like. And by the way, when you open a container and then rewrap it in transparent film, I suggest you mark it with an X, or you can also write the date on it so that you remember which containers you have already opened. Like this, in the future, you can open new containers that have not been opened yet. I'm saying that because I think it's good to change the air inside them at least once. Plants breathe, and it's probably not a good idea to never change the air. Lastly, here are the only new peyotes that I'm growing this year. I'll be honest with you, I love the looks of peyotes, but I'm more keen on the Trichocereus, as they grow faster and there is always so much more happening. These peyotes, though, are the Caespitosa form, so they should grow plenty of heads when they are older, and that's going to be something amazing to witness happening. This is probably the last video you see in a while of me using the Spider Farmer grow light, simply because the spring is coming and these plants are soon going outside. You can't grow the cacti forever under lights, but if you place them outside for the growing season, they will love it. My summer setup was shown last year in the video San Pedro and Sun Exposure, and that setup has been an absolute success. If you use shallow trays like the larger ones I use, and you place them outside in a similar setup, you'll find you have no issues with insects, because the air circulation is just fantastic. The seedlings were also better rooted and stronger looking because they had to fight the wind. I'm really happy with my summer setup, and this year I will put it back identical to last year. Talking about insects, which are an issue when there is no air movement. In the course of the last 2 months, I've had a problem with fungus gnats, which is now resolved. No loss of plants because thankfully they did not get inside my closed containers. They were seen flying around the open containers, but they cannot do any harm to older seedlings. However, they have been a pain for me as they love to fly around your face. They also remain a risk for the closed containers in case they manage to find a way to get in. I've hung a large piece of yellow sticky plastic and it's attracted some of them. I've also put some BTI in the water I've given to the plants for about 3 weeks in a row. BTI is the insecticide you can find in mosquito dunks. I also took the plants on my terrace for watering, and then I left them outside overnight. That helps to reduce the population of gnats. By combining these two methods of control, BTI and taking them outside for watering, I have now gotten rid of the bugs. Well everyone, that pretty much wraps up this video. It's been a while since I last uploaded one, sorry about that. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and I'll see you again very soon.